Hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Value of Everything. Now, let's put my car in drive before I get started. And not do a hill start that way either. Right, so subject matter today is point of purchase, which is really going to get me a ridiculous amount of hits from the internet. But I think I have a lot of channels I can go into on this subject, and I will give you a little thought experiment on this one. If you are in the business world or you're thinking of starting your own business, this may give you a few options. It is probably going to be a little bit in the high-tech arena, but it's always, even if it's in the high-tech arena, you can always think of maybe these little companies, or these big companies require parts or spare supplements, so you can always think of different ways that you can help and assist or create value for subsidiary companies. Also, you can create value for yourself and produce your own market, depending on how things go and where you have internet-based companies which can start and have pretty much the most minimal cost ever. There is plenty of opportunity out there for you. If you do take aboard a really fantastic idea and it becomes really successful for you, just remember me. It would be quite nice. Right. Next up. So, point of purchase. There's a number of different changes that have been happening over time. I think we should just dive into a little bit of history. So, in the past, wherever we wanted something in life, we had to get up, get ready, and go out there and get it. So, whether it would be hunting for animals or to go shopping, everything has now, well, everything was up to you to start going out there and use burning up the energy for you to get it. Now, as time's progressed, and I'm definitely thinking about that Wall-E thing where they send all those fat people, they send those people up into outer space and everyone's just laying on these beautiful little floating chairs and just getting all the fast food that they ever want. You can see that there is this couch potato lifestyle which is being created, with everything being able to be delivered to your door, and there is definite market changes occurring, and it hasn't really even begun to transition really, and there are more technologies which are going to cross over. So I'm just going to expand on thoughts with those and see where it takes us. Now, one of I would perceive as the older technologies out there, which usually has got more of a connection to do with the government than anything else, which would be money. Money has been fairly slow and non-adaptive, and there has been some big changes with the advent of PayPal, but in general, since Diners Club card has been made, I think in the 1950s, and then you had the MasterCards and the Visas thereafter, there hasn't been really much of a revolution in terms of how we transfer value from one person to another. Now, we do have this mobile device which can enable us to do pretty much most things that we can perceive without it being some kind of hammer. I mean, obviously you could turn your mobile into a hammer, but it wouldn't last very long. So, in a virtual sense, the mobile can do pretty much anything. So, where it comes to one of the major technologies, and obviously this one's out already, people can use that for themselves, is using their mobile device as a kind of wallet. So there's mobile banking, which is available to you right now. So you could walk around with your banking application, and you could meet somebody else and say, "Oh, okay, I owe you $10. Here is $10," and you'd have to tap away at your mobile device. It's probably not very efficient compared to just giving somebody $10 in their hands, but you're tapping away in these in your web browser, and then you might be able to transfer over those $10, and there might be a certain clearing time. So technology is still not quite there when it comes to our personal banking exchange of value. There is technology like Bitcoin Wallet, which is a lot more efficient, where you can get these. It's like a barcode, like a Q code, where it's like a patterny thing, quite pretty looking, black and white, and you can just scan that from one to the other. Just take a photograph, and then that is the message which says, "You pay me $10 to this account," and you scan it, and then you can click accept, and then that transfer can happen a lot more rapidly than what it would be for you just to use your mobile device. Now, that Q code scanning mechanism can be applied in all shops, and it is being widely adopted. Probably you're going to get that a lot more in California, but it is gradually getting adopted, and coffee shops are doing that. Probably are the most far ahead on that one compared to anybody else. But we still have obviously issues with people accepting that Bitcoin is a good means to exchange value still, so it's not hugely adopted. But it is very important just to see that aspect of how easily you can transfer value without having to tap away or writing a clearing check and waiting a few numbers of days to purchase something, and particularly off an individual. Now, where it comes to shopping online, and the best example would be Amazon, you can do one-click purchasing, and pretty much as long as you're logged in online, I think even if you've just stayed in online from the previous day, the purchase can be made with really the least amount of trouble, and that is very important to a shopkeeper, because a shopkeeper really doesn't want you to experience anything that's negative in you making a purchase. It wants you to have as pleasant experience as possible without you having to be shitty about why you had to wait so long in the queue just to make a purchase for a banana or something like that. So point of purchase is a very important thing, and the ease of use is going to be highly important, especially in the future. Now, there are multiple websites out there, and they've got all these different functions, and they do still require you to log on, and not everywhere is like Amazon. So, and you do have also facilities like PayPal, but PayPal's still a little bit more clicky based. You still need a couple of extra pages and a password. I know I'm sounding pretty over the top about that, but it does make an awful lot of difference when it comes to making a purchase. If somebody, for one slight reason or another, thinks, "Oh, can't remember the password," then for a shopkeeper, that's a lost sale, and that's terrible in terms of commerce and trade, which should have occurred in that spot and moment. So, if we perceive that the wallet, and when I'm talking about the wallet, I'm talking about the mobile wallet, which is embedded into your mobile. Obviously, it would have to have some kind of security procedure in there, maybe to do with your thumbprint. I hear that there is a lot of security issues with that anyway, but obviously, however quickly you can access your phone is important. And the way if it ever gets lost, you can close that down as well. So that's probably just one of the major important parts. And there's certain transaction limits that you probably have to apply at certain points. But when you look at that Bitcoin wallet technology, it is amazingly quick how you can transfer funds. There may be even smarter and faster ways in which you can transfer funds and accept them without having too much of an issue. Now, obviously, this might scare people a little bit, but rather than us using a mobile device, we might be able to extend that mobile device to other means and other things. Maybe we could use fingertips or fingerprints to directly recognize that that is us and we have made the purchase. So as soon as we put our finger on the scanner, it scans it and we accept. That's an identification recognition, but it would still need to link it to a certain banking account of yours. Also, or wallet account for a Bitcoin. Also, you could have some kind of this ain't going to make a lot of people happy, but a chip embedded into your finger, which could have the access to your accounts, and you could tap that in. I guess that's quite secure unless people go around with cigar cutters and chop off your fingertips, but it's that would potentially make purchasing very easy, and you could just touch the some kind of processing point and it would accept the purchase, and you could take that away for yourself straight away from a shopping line. So that it's an interesting concept. And then the final piece in the jigsaw is that you could have a type of brain scanner. I've mentioned this before in previous podcasts. There are brainwave scanners that can check whether you accept or you decline certain items. So it can work out whether you're thinking left and right. That technology is available to us right now. So we may have more advanced and more sophisticated ways that you could walk into a shop and the teller would be able to recognize that you require that product, and it could automatically store it for you, and then once you are about to leave, then it would have all the items just prepared for you at the exit of the door, and you could just collect them. So you wouldn't even have to have the hassle of queuing up and putting forward your banking details to make the purchase. So, interesting concepts. Some of it can be fairly scary as well. I know that people that think if there is going to be this big new world order with one government system, then yeah, you do have certain intrusions of information, especially if they are reading your mind. And if you read 1984, then we've got some incredible worries to worry about there. However, if we do not have the state and we just have shops which are just trying to provide you a good service, then there isn't really any malice. There's no violence caused or harms. You could start arguing or debating that there is certain types of manipulations that could be used if they had brain scanners to tell that you were thirsty, then they could start advertising lots of soft drinks to you straight away as you walk through the door. But again, still, it's providing a service that the customer may want at that time. So that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. If somebody's walking through the desert and somebody's selling water, it's not like they're doing any harm. It's obviously it is doing harm if they know that they've got some kind of, they can exploit that person and whack up the prices, but that's a totally different matter. We're talking about going into a shopping centre, which there'll be plenty other places to go through. And I presume as well as technology progresses, our intelligence progresses to match that, so that I know obviously some still people are susceptible to going to McDonald's and buying burger and chips because our bodies want it more than our heads, or our primeval sort of parts of our body want it more. I'm not sure, maybe it's our gut or something, or our brain that still wants it. So it's just a way that we need to start making ourselves a little bit more disciplined. I guess another thing especially for men, is to be more disciplined when we want to view porn sites and things like that, how that could absorb our time. There's a number of things where technology improves that it can definitely make us more addictive, but we need to quell and keep ourselves as disciplined as possible. So that's the wallet technology, which is very interesting indeed. Now we have certain elements. I'd like to start going into the... I'd like to go to other areas now. So we have ease of money transfer, which is a very important thing. Now, another area which isn't really... It is sort of exercised in certain manners and ways is the power to negotiate. Now, obviously, if you go down to a car dealer, that's probably one of the most obvious places where you can negotiate a deal with the used car salesman, and he can throw in this and that, or give you certain discounts, which is kind of good and kind of bad. Some people would prefer to get the price and the lowest price possible without any of the hassle, but sometimes there is always that. There is the bid and ask, which is an important factor for people to understand. So people will bid a certain price that they are prepared to pay, and there is people that would ask a certain price that people should pay for them. And between those two metrics, there is a certain level of a spread. This is quite commonly used in trading terms. So there is always that area of a negotiating level which is occurring. So where we have that, we can think in terms of a market supply system. So if somebody really wanted something, somebody could say, okay, I would like to put that. Let's just say, for an example, right, we could have a different way of eBaying our goods. So I've got my Google glasses on, so I can quickly look at something and put something on eBay. So I can say, right, okay, that's that item. Google glasses could recognize it, and then puts that lot onto eBay. Now, on eBay, there are certain... I'm using eBay, but we could be using different things in the future as well. So it could put on a market order so that it says that a certain price, this will be accepted to be purchased. That is usually termed as buy it now. There's there's obviously other procedures which happen with eBay as well, where buy now or nearest offer. So that's where they're prepared to look at the spread and the ask, which is another terminology. There is also on the trading area, there's like fill or kill. So you immediately put something online. I don't think this really operates too much on eBay, where you instantly put something on the market and say, look, if you're going to give me this price, you give it to me now. If not, I'm just taking it off. So that gives people a shorter length of time to think about the purchase that's being made. And people sometimes go for it, or people give it up. I know that Arsene Wenger from Arsenal, which is a Premiership side in England, he loves to leave things to the very last transfer day window. I'm sort of an Arsenal fan. I'm not probably the greatest. I've caned sport in the past on previous podcasts, but it's always interesting just around about the transfer time. But he'll leave it until the last day, the last hour, and it's not fill or kill from his perspective, but he basically gives an offer of take it or leave it. I'm prepared to give you this price. There is no room for you negotiating anymore. Just give me that, and we will do the deal. If not, you can leave it. And that does that. I'm not talking about fill or kill. I'm just talking about that short breadth of time, just for you to make that decision if you want that in the moment, or you can take it away. So that does work into the fact of your own discipline. So if people want things in the moment, a lot of people want sugar and sweets and KFC right in the moment, but there's obviously a certain level of discipline. If you can be disciplined with the way that you do your trades, then you should be more financially better off. But there are certain trading tactics that you can apply which will advantage you if you are more patient than the other. Now, I would like, just to think of those in those terms. So there's a lot more negotiating abilities which are out there, which are not really fully applied. We get that in the used and the exchange markets, but we may have a lot more of a sophisticated way that we can walk around shops or online shops and go, right, well, I don't think that price is that good. Could you give me this offer instead? Obviously, websites are very static. It takes a while for them to refresh and change. Change a price of a product may require the website to go down for an hour and then to go up again. So there's a lot of static which happens, but in the future, there's a lot more potential for people to be negotiating around the spread rather than always on the ask. So, and potentially the buyer can come in with bids. And obviously there are bidding websites where people can bid, and there's people that can bid at masses. So where you have a number of like Groupon websites where if people combine together to make a large purchase order, then they can get a fairly sizable discount. There are those things which are happening in markets, which are happening online, but you can expect a lot more of that in the future with this technology and being applied in a lot more areas. So it's very interesting how negotiating will work. I think the traditional method of negotiating is still a little bit of a tricky one for a lot of people. A lot of people are not quite confident to do that, and I think the preference of the market will be just to do the bid and the ask rather than the full, hi there mate, let's talk about how much this is worth. I'm prepared to only give you this and all those kind of shenanigans. I think everyone is interested in instant negotiating, not this very long-winded negotiating sort of session. I know when you go around places like Turkey, you looking to buy a carpet or a leather jacket, they'll take you in and you'll sit down and have a lovely cup of it's like a sweet rose tea, and you'll talk about your life, and you might make a purchase. But particularly people, I mean, if people were living in the country and they've got not a lot going on, then yeah, you could understand that. But people who live in the city have got plenty going on, and they've got plenty of entertainments and everything else. Sometimes you could say it's a bit of a shame that people don't spend time to talk with each other, but it's a certain direction that things are moving in, and it's important to recognize. And you could say that there is obviously a big social scene which is happening online, so we can't just completely negate ourselves in that respect. So yeah, so I mentioned about certain orders which can be placed between the bidder and the asker, so that's interesting. And there is obviously more of a prone to go into instant negotiating. When we have these products and the spread, we want to have this instant negotiation. We do not really want this big, long chatting affair between people. Next up is payment types. Now, we obviously mentioned the Bitcoin wallet, but obviously this is just a means of value exchange. We could decide on doing swaps, so we could swap one purchased item for another. We don't really do this as much nowadays, but I guess in the day of barter there was more so of a time where you'd have a cup about 10 chickens and or 20 chickens, and you could sell that 20 chickens for a cow. So you could do an exchange of goods. But obviously there is you're never going to get quite a perfect match, but there would be potential channels where you could do exchange of goods. You've got a 4x4 and somebody else has got a sports car, and you'd like the other and they like the other, so there could be a way of doing direct transfers with maybe just a little bit of Bitcoin just to meet that measure between the two of those. Now, I would like to throw in some other technology and see how that can change our point of purchase. Now, we always think of point of purchase as something that we think about first, and then we make the purchase. Then or maybe we don't even make the purchase yet, but we get provided with those goods, and then we make the purchase. So that I'm talking about in a restaurant sense. You get delivered the goods first, and depending on if the goods are crap or not, then you can purchase for it or not. But if you're in a restaurant scenario, you tend to purchase all of it, especially if you've eaten all the goods. If something is rotten, obviously you shouldn't pay for that single item, but you will still be charged for all the other items which were good. So yeah, so those are certain interesting factors. Now, when I mention about making purchases with your thought beforehand, let's think in this terms. Say if you had AI technology which was very used to the way that you do things. So obviously when you go onto Amazon Online shows you, it knows, it has probably quite a sophisticated, I don't know whether it's an algorithm or some kind of like market research which is going on in the background, and it starts to know exactly the things that you like, and it makes good suggestions as to other products that you may enjoy as well. So that is really interesting stuff, and I've mentioned that before about you going into a store and it's the brain scanner's working out that you're thirsty, and it shows you a can of drink. There's some good little pieces or things that demonstrate that in Minority Report, where you walk into the shop and it says, "Hey there, Mr. Whoever," and it starts talking to you. So yeah, that's quite a good little movie to watch when you think about this point of purchase sales. But imagine if the artificial intelligence knew you so well that you could accept that it would be able to make pre-purchases before on your behalf before you knew that you needed it. Now that could be very interesting in those terms. And if you think of it, you're thinking, "Whoa, my gosh, that could revolutionize things." Now, the problem you might have with that is that the AI system has bought you some shit thing that you didn't really need in the first place, and you could be quite annoyed with it. It's like, say, your girlfriend or your mother buying yourself some clothing that you didn't really want, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't really want this in the first place." But so this AI system may potentially need some kind of insurance, so that, like, you know, where you buy something, I always keep on mentioning about Amazon, it is a bit of a revolution in terms of being the front runner. If you do have a certain product and you're not quite happy with it, you can return it back in a number of days. So there will be that ability to have those pre-purchases that are made to you and delivered to you. And if we think of the costs being driven down for things to be delivered to you, you could have products at your disposal. You could use it, you could sample it for a little while, and then you might say, well, AI, I don't think you was right there. I don't think this is the correct one. And obviously, if you say that this is incorrect, then the AI will take on that knowledge and not make those pre-purchases for you. So there will be a lot more liquidity in the market between you with prior purchase, try before you buy, and with regards to even it working out exactly pinpointing how quickly you could make that purchase. Now, if you think of this AI technology making pre-purchases as well for you on your behalf, now you're thinking, well, there is a massive benefit for Amazon to create you a system which does AI pre-purchasing. So Amazon obviously has a sophisticated market research on each individual customer that it has. So it would be more advantageous for Amazon just to go a little bit further and having some kind of Siri type machine programming to actually understand and know its likes and wants more and more, to understand that person. So even to have this AI technology might be incredibly cheap because of the advantage that other companies can have by knowing the customer as much. So we through the point purchase of sale and everything else, we may see that AI technology might be just free in itself because of the way that the market research happens, and you can tell this by customers getting loyalty cards and discounts because they purchase things in the store. They get this benefit even without them really having to do anything other than just for the pure market research. So artificial intelligence could be provided to us for next to nothing. So it's an interesting concept in those respects when we apply that. But obviously, you could go back home and the AI technology has got you certain music. Maybe it's worked out the playlist to play in your car on a journey, and it's already made the pre-purchases of the tracks. And if you didn't like it, you say, "Don't like that one, AI." Maybe you're probably not going to call it AI, but whatever you're calling your assistant or Siri or whatever else it's going to be called, or maybe it's certainly designed some pre-movies. Maybe, I know that this is obviously always a tricky concept for a lot of people, is what's going on this weekend? Why aren't we doing anything this weekend? Normal conversation you get between a lot of, I don't know, a lot of guys, the girls go, "Oh, well, we don't do anything this weekend. Why aren't we doing anything?" And that's a common thing. So imagine the AI has been investigating plenty of Airbnbs, and it's already ordered its Google Auto. So literally there isn't really much in the way that you have to do. The purchases, all the scanning, the checking for the markets to get the cheapest price, that's already been pre-designed and pre-baked into the goods. And maybe the AI might say, "Okay, well, we've got a couple of plans for you. There's the $50 option, there's the $100 option, or maybe the $200 option. Your choice." Or maybe the AI is sophisticated enough, you've already programmed how much you want to save every month. So the AI already knows what it can do with the limited amount of funds that you have in the first place. So the AI has already planned your weekend before you, just so that you could experience something. And obviously, if you've got certain interests and likes, and maybe the AI has to communicate with your girlfriend's or wife's AI and find something that is suitable for both of you, so that you're quite pleasantly pleased with the outing and the experience that you're both going on. So that could be a revolution in terms of how your weekends are planned. So yeah, interesting concepts. There's plenty of business ideas in terms of those, and obviously I know that one of the big killers when it comes to you trying to plan something is all this time that's required to scan through, even where you've got these websites that can scan all the other websites. It still takes a lot of time. There's still little other places and notches, and you can look at other, like the top 10 ways to find the cheapest flights, and there's all these different ways and methods to do something. So if you had AI technology that was sophisticated enough to know where to look and do all the different scannings and really seek out the price discovery of the lowest price possible to provide the highest amount of value for its customer, then that could create benefits for a number of people, and then all those people that have got a number of places that they want to hire out. Maybe the guy that's going away with for the weekend with that girl maybe people want to stay in their place, particularly if they've got lower budgets and things like that. So that it could negate the costs of them going away. So that there'll be a far higher frequency of moving, particularly over the weekends. Oh my gosh, imagine the traffic on the roads at that point. But maybe with the Google Autos, they can do high speed, very close to each other traveling, so it might be a bit better. But you would have an incredible amount of options for yourself on the weekend, and if you want to push things a little bit further, or you want to stick with budgetary requirements, then it is amazing. So if you think of how much entertainment can be provided for you and how much you can do when you're going outside of the trips, now it's pushed even further. And particularly where you have Google Auto, you can now go to any place and you can get intoxicated with any drug, and then the Google Auto will take you back. Obviously, there'll probably be certain restrictions with Google Auto for you to be sober at the wheel at all times, but as that becomes more and more sophisticated, you can get drunk and probably get the Google Auto to take you back without any problems. And I'm sure people would be doing that pretty much from the day one, until that probably becomes a little bit of a norm, unless there is a few accidents which occur, and then you would have newspapers taking over and saying people there. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, which I didn't really want to go into too much, but just think in those terms. The AI technology has this ability to search multiple websites and calibrate exactly to all your tolerances, how much you want to spend on that thing, and how much maybe other people might like that, so you can make a more of a social purchase with other people. Maybe it knows all your friends on Facebook, so it knows all the other people that like something, and maybe it works out all the diary times, so it can start making suggestions, and maybe even say, hey, we've got this event organized. Because we've got all your friends getting involved on this as well, we can create this big social party with everybody else there, and it's such a big party, we've managed to get a number of discounts. It would have cost you, but if you went by yourself, at least 40% more. But now we can get it cut down to this price, and you're staying in this lovely, luxurious mansion with this massive pool. So you're doing tremendous now with this deal. Would you like to accept this purchase? And if everybody else comes on board, then we're going to be fantastic. And then obviously you accept, but some other people don't. But then some other mates can come along. So there are certain branches where the technology can push us into a more of a social aspects. I guess it's very hard for a lot of people in terms of I'm one for always trying to create a social event. I always like doing things like that, but maybe with the advent of artificial intelligence, maybe that's probably braver than other people to start really engaging people on a social level, meeting and greeting. A lot of people don't really want to go out of their shell too much and do those things, but there are a lot of people that want to remain social. It's something entwined in us, that we are social creatures, we are pack animals. So AI technology, and particularly technology that's trying to sell us stuff, always is going to try and promote us being social and doing stuff. And once we have a discussion and we understand that we all go through life's problems and can relate to each other, then we walk away as happier people, knowing that we're not on our own. And that's part of the bittersweetness of comedy itself, which we seek value in as well, and we purchase tickets for. So it's all very interesting stuff, how the AI might take over certain virtues and do things that we wouldn't normally do, and be a bit braver, putting out invitations, organizing events. People do the actual work for us rather than us having to host. And obviously we're going to have different things available to us. We're really going to start hitting onto robotics a little bit more, so when we do have this big party, we don't have to load the dishwasher twice. Maybe there's a robot that does it for us, and all of those beautiful things, which is going to enable us to be a lot more sociable and spend a lot more time with our family and friends, in comparison to being working all the time, unless obviously the economy is pushing us to do the other way. On the entertainment side, there is a lot more options, which is less time consuming and gives us higher quality for a lower price. Okay, next little area I'd like to talk in is ownership. Now, ownership is very important, where, especially for a philosopher, we own our own bodies and we own the product of our work. And if we find a land which is not being used for a certain length of time and we make that ours, that we can homestead that for ourselves and we can still produce goods on that land. So there is lots of products of our effort which we can do and we can get that in return. So I'm sure people have got a lot of shit at home, especially if you live in the West, and everything has a certain amount of value. Now, there are lots of things that I'm sure people have which other people would love to use but never get the opportunity to use. And a lot of people make these materialistic purchases, these impulse buys, and then don't really use it again because the high of the original use is not as the same, and then they put it to one side. Maybe to use that object, maybe something like a boat, is quite time consuming, quite annoying to, and obviously it's high bills, so it's never really used that much. So this is very interesting. Now, imagine if the blockchain technology can start to, now I've mentioned this before in previous podcasts, start to label things as certain, as owned to, and possessed to certain items, to certain people, not items, sorry, you are people. So I wish I could stop saying so. Where we have Bitcoin technology, especially where you say if you manufactured a good from a factory, every item has a serial number. So with that serial number, somebody out there in this world eventually purchases it. And I know there's this thing called the product registry that nobody really likes to do, and we sort of just get rid of it as quickly as we can unless we need to claim on the warranty. But when it comes to product registry, we can register the products that we've purchased on the blockchain. So Amazon's really quite good. I know I keep on referring to Amazon, but Amazon does obviously keep a registry of all the purchases that you've made. If there is any problems with your product, you can go back to the Amazon website and you can say, look, I made this purchase, please can I get a refund? It's blown up on me within the warranty time. And they would say, hey, yeah, sure. And they're pretty easy. They make shitloads of money, so they just say, yeah, whatever. We're making enough money back off you, so it's fine. but yeah, so think of all of your goods that you've purchased are getting registered. It's not all being put on these funny pieces of paper and receipts that you're throwing away and putting into bins because you can't be asked keeping it and organizing it. All these purchases are being placed upon a blockchain system, so a highly secured, like impregnable accounting ledger, which assigns all of these goods to your name. Say your land ownership, your house ownership, your car ownership. Everything is being assigned to your name. So imagine this blockchain and the AI technology going, okay, well, we own all of these items, and obviously the AI is going to be fairly akin to knowing what you use all the time. And AI is going to say, look, I can provide you with a solution to all this shit that you never use. We can still keep it in your name and you can lease it out. There's potential that things can get damaged. If you're quite concerned about that, I can also add in certain insurance policies, but we might not make as much of a profit. But also we could just lease it out to people so other people can use it at that certain time. If you're working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, we've obviously got a lot of shit we can lend out all the time, and people can use it. Now, obviously, people prefer to loan out things for long terms because people it's expensive to move things back and forth. quite rapidly. But there is another technology which is coming into place as well, which is going to potentially revolutionize things, which will be the drones. So the AI may rent a drone to come down. So this big supersized drone, hopefully it doesn't look too dangerous, like one of those military standard drones, attack drones with a gun on top, but like a nice friendly carrier drone. You can go to your drone pickup helipad and put your item out there, and the drone will come over. It knows how to package the good just so it doesn't drop from the sky, and then picks it up. And depending on obviously the size of it, if it's a grand piano, then you may need about 50 drones to pick it up. But if you've just got a very light thing like a spare mobile phone, who knows, then the drones can work around and work in an algorithm. Sorry, what did I mention? Yeah, there's a thing about the algorithm as well. So the drones can work around what the AI sends the message to as to these purchases that are being made. So now, I'd love to take a little argument attack at the resource-based economy at this point. So this is obviously we're working in the realms of capitalism here. We are working. I'm obviously a little bit dubious of the state and the state control. I would prefer the smallest state possible. And if we could get even further to pushing that state to the smallest and smallest, even until we get to the tiny minicest state, and then maybe even thinking of ways that we can change the law courts by Bitcoin technology and change our security by being good to our children so they're not violent prone, and being and maybe purchasing private security, then we may not even require a state anymore. But on that tangent, I forgot where I was going, which is great. But yeah, there is lease purchases that could be made. And so I was talking about the resource-based economy. So with this technology, people are going to be able to transfer their goods with AI technology. And I'm sure a lot of people, unless they really value having their own goods that they don't share out to other people, they don't want other people's smells on their toys, then they choose to live a certain way where they keep their material items to themselves, and they find value in that, and that is fine to them. But I know me, I love buying things secondhand. I don't like paying top dollars for things, especially if it's a quality item that I know that could last. I do like taking the discount of the used item. But if we could get more and more sophisticated in leasing things out, I know that there's obviously people have been quite used to car rentals. When they travel to a different country, they go to the airport and then they use the car rental and they travel around. But things have been more sophisticated recently, where you can hire a car in different areas of different streets, and you can use it for a specific amount of time. You can allot a certain time to yourself, and you can share the value of that item rather than it being lost and closed into being in your own little self-storage. So that is an incredible amount of value that could be created by a capitalist system, where we could resource allocate things in an incredible way, shape and manner. I have been a proponent for us not always working 9 to 5 days a week. Everybody should be working different at set hours. Maybe if somebody works in an office, somebody should be able to take over a different shift in time, so we're all a little bit more akin to working different hours, so we can maximize the potential and products of growth. We should be able to transfer value, and especially like equipment that we need to use, like forklift trucks, that could be provided and sent around pretty quickly. Obviously, you would need something a bit more sophisticated than, a little bit more harder wearing than a drone ship. Maybe you would require probably need something like a lorry or a truck with a couple of robot drones just picking up things and moving it for you. So I guess a man and a van is probably handier for the meantime, but if you can get robotics and a truck to do it for you at some point, that could be a labour-saving device that could revolutionise things in that could move things in a bit more of a higher sense. But yeah, so the resource-based economy, which the left-wing communist side of things do, the zeitgeist, is going to come anyway from capitalism, regardless of how they look at it. But obviously, with this resource-based economy, obviously they're stating that it's going to be, we're going to have certain limits of how much we can use, which will deteriorate the environment. But the problem is that it's not the people that are deciding these things. There's going to be some kind of centrally planning which is happening, which decides how much the environment is being degraded, whereas really the people should be deciding as to how much degradation is happening to the environment, and people are making the right purchases for the correct environment needs. Now, if people seek that there is value in having a good environment, people would use their purchasing power to promote those things, and people do make ethical changes. They do recycle their goods just so that they can have a good environment. So things do happen in a good way. So regardless, now if we did have this big centrally planned world government that decided how many resources could be used, there's certain manipulations that could be that could happen. And yeah, it's so really tough, because the argument is that this resource-based economy wouldn't exist in a capitalist system, because there's this big demand for higher profits and higher profits. But where there's competition, there's always going to be certain amounts of scarcity. If we can flood the market with more availability of all these material items, people might like to buy these purchase these really nice Gucci dresses, but then we can share them out if we can sanitize it and things like that. So maybe the drones can sanitize as well when they're transferring goods over. So it's not all about thinking about this one world government monopoly on controlling all our resources. It's all going to go back down to the individual and the human operating system, which is us, and working in combination with its AI technology, which is going to enhance the brain. There's also another little thing I just mentioned. I just thought of this morning as well, is that as we get better and better, I know that I can do this. I can start looking on websites of news and articles with my eyes, whilst listening to a podcast at the same time. Maybe while you're doing this, as now you're doing some kind of shitty menial task that a robot should be doing. But a robot with no emotions, or that will be immoral. Yeah. I wish my brain's not working this morning. Sorry. I've lost my trail of thought there, but yeah, I think there were some good points there. Just rewind and just think about it. Again, I'd love you to come back with your own ideas and tell me about how we can change point of purchases and how algorithms can enable us to beat this. The political force of the one world government and the resource-based economy. I don't know why I keep on forgetting about it. It's just maybe it's probably so forgettable that it's just going to be a thing of the past, and everyone's going to just convert to this beautiful anarchic capitalist world. Anyway, so yeah, resource-based economy is going to happen, and you don't really need this big, powerful mega state to have it happen. And when you do get this big, powerful, monopolistic kind of state, there's all these dodgy little tactics which can happen, which can give other people more power and other people less. So be very aware of these things. And yeah, just remember that scarcity is one of the biggest drivers. I think with a resource-based economy, they always say, "Oh yeah, the problem with capitalism, there's so much scarcity and everyone's being driven down, and you're gonna end up with this big fight and competition for less and less resources as time goes on." But really, capitalism doesn't. It does the opposite of scarcity. It does actually create surpluses of goods and needs, and it really it doesn't necessarily create surpluses, but it does provide things so that people can get as much value out of things as possible. So we do create abundance, but obviously we're creating abundance so that when people require these items, we can use those resources economically and provide them correctly to the individual. But when we have this centrally planned system, so I say use algorithms with AI to people to start making purchases with people. When it comes to this big centrally planned algorithm that works out exactly what everybody wants, it's really just going to create some really weird throw ups of what the world wants, and it's going to make people being forced to be a scientist when they don't really want to be a scientist, and being given kids toys, certain toys, when those kids don't really want those toys and won't really benefit from them. So that's certain arguments. I'm just going to throw out the resource-based economy. There are far better ones with regards to power a little bit later, but I will go into that in a later sense. But yeah, we are creating liquidity, which means basically like a plentiful supply of goods which can be provided to everybody and used at their disposal. We're going to create a liquid market of resources by this technology, which the resource-based economy plans that it's going to be able to do, but it hasn't got a fathomable idea how to act out this thing. The only way that it's going to happen is by an individual working alongside AI technology that is going to enable it to be able to make this real resource-based economy. So that's always very interesting, and obviously we've got to think as well. Hopefully, the governments start to diminish themselves a little bit. They don't become all protectionists like Donald Trump seems to be, and unless he's very good at his trade deals and he's very bit for this, bit for that. But we're looking at an international market. So whenever you make a purchase for something, the drones are looking how far, how much fuel it's going to use, how much solar power, how much time it's going to be required. So it's going to throw in so many variables into the algorithm of whether you can use something, and it probably works out what's your tolerance of used items or not. So sometimes you might be able to tolerate a used stereo, but when it comes to a used underwear, you're probably not quite happy to use those Ralph Lauren underwears and things like that. So it's going to work out all of those objects, and it's going to be able to cross borders, and we're going to have thousands of flying drones in the air. Hopefully people don't try and shoot them down too much, but there'll be insurance facilities for them, and then maybe there's repair drones that repair the drones. So it's all a fantastic world which we're creating. I know that I keep on mentioning that people are going to immerse themselves a little bit more into the AI world, but this I guess this does promote a certain sense for the experience side of things, more so into our real world, where we can really resource allocate the best ideals, and we can be driven to the pier and get on a beautiful boat, and we can start driving around and have a really great experience, rather than really spending our time working out what we want to do one morning and then driving down to a place and finding out that it's crap. So yeah, there is so many beautiful things that can happen with the point of purchase, and just don't look at it in perspective of right now. It could happen prior to purchase, it can happen after to purchase. There's many different factors, and there's different forms and methodologies of this. Again, this is a thought experiment, so I do wish that you can participate in this. Obviously, this stuff has immense value because it has applications in the business sense. So I would recommend that you try and be forthcoming with knowledge and sharing, so that we can create a better world for ourselves. But if you choose to just keep this to yourself, create your own business, if you're successful at it, go for it as well. But just share your knowledge, share it to people, and create a better world for all of us. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I have provided you with some kind of enjoyment or value or thoughts. If you do create some really great drone, eBay, Amazon company, please send me some beautiful goods that my AI technology has decided that I really like, and I will be eternally grateful. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, and we will chat again soon.